Okay, so while we're waiting for the last people to arrive, let me just start the preamble here. We've got several people in the Auckland office listening in as well. So if you have any questions as we go through, there is a questions panel in the GoToWebinar toolbar off to the right-hand side of your screen. You can type your questions in there, and then if the guys in Auckland are able to answer that, they will do so. If I get a chance, we'll do a roundup of questions at the end as well. This webcast is a get my screen going here. Is a revamp, if you like, of one I did several years ago. I think it was about the 2010 version when I last did this, and a few things have changed since then. So the plan is to go and have a look at how it's set up to work these days. For those who haven't met me before, I see a number of names in the list of people attending here that do actually know me, so hello to you people, and hello to anybody who's new as well. That's me on screen, and a little bit of my background as well. So what we're looking at today for the next hour or so is the plan production tools in Civil3D. So that is getting your long sections and plan views onto a sheet, and also your cross sections as well onto sheets. Now there is automatic ways of doing that in Civil3D. Some people are using them, some are not. They are particularly advantageous when you've got a very long section of corridor to get out, and that's when it's really going to make a difference to you. So we're going to start the demonstration and get into it. Let me switch through to where are we? There it is. Let me kill that as well. All right, so that's going to speed things up. All right, so hopefully you should be able to see on screen the start of the Civil3D start page. I will try and monitor how the screens are catching up to the webcast as we go. It does depend a little bit on the web connection. But I'll just keep that open here on the side so we can see what's going on. All right, so I have a bit of a drawing started already, so I'm going to open that from my desktop. I'll put it as, there we go. Okay, so anybody that's done training with me or with Jay or with Morgan will recognise this little data set, and this is one of the little sorts of exercises we do when we do the training, is to make a bit of a corridor, put a road widening into road widening or bus bay onto the side of it, and produce that. So the next step would be from there, this is our design long section up the top, to go and think about, okay, well, let's go and lay out some sheets. So the first thing you probably want to look at is the laying out of the long sections and plan views. Now, when I'm going to be doing this demonstration, I will be using what is known as the ANZ Australia-New Zealand Country Kit. If you do not know whether you have that or not, the easiest way to find it is to click this button up here to bring up your toolbox. Have a look in your toolbox and see if you have the Australia-New Zealand Reports Manager. So you've got this little group here of the ANZ reports. If you do have that, then you've got the ANZ Country Kit installed. If you don't, drop us a line and we can show you how to install that. Now, there are Autodesk equivalents of what I'm going to be showing you, but we have found generally the ANZ ones work quite well. They're designed to work in this part of the world, and it makes life a little bit easier. So let us start. The first thing you need to do for your long sections is figure out how many long sections you're going to need to fit, or how many sheets you're going to need to fit this big snaky piece of roadway onto your sheets at a particular scale. You do that with what's called view frames. We go to the Output tab in the ribbon, and these first buttons, the three on the left, are the ones that are the plan production tools, and you can see underneath it says plan production there. The first one is create view frames, so we click on that. Now this brings up a wizard. Now the key to using this wizard and get it to lay out the sheets at the right size is to set your model space scale to the scale that you want your long sections and cross sections to plot at. So in this case, I would come through here and I would set that to, in this case, 1 to 500 should work quite well on an A1 size sheet, I think, with that sort of size road. So I'm going to set that to 1 to 500. Then I'm going to come into the create view frames. We tell it what alignment we want these to run along, and we want it to go from the start to the end of that alignment. We go next. This is the part where that 1 to 500 is important. I'm going to tell the software to draw plan and profile on the same sheet. You can do plans only or profiles, which is long sections only on a sheet, but most people in Australia and New Zealand tend to use both the plan and the profile. When we do that, we need to tell it what template in the background to use to figure out how big the sheet is and how big the viewports are that are assigned to it. So the way we do that is click this ellipsis button in the middle here. And the first time you come into here, you won't have these ANZ ones. You've probably got ISO and sheet size and a scale. So you need to click this other ellipsis button and tell it which template in the background to use. Now, this is the default location when you click that ellipsis button, the default location for where all your templates are. And we go into the folder called Plan Production, and here are the ANZ ones. So it's not just a template that gets loaded when you load up the Australia and New Zealand Country Kit. You've got all the stuff in the background here as well, which we're going to make use of. There's one for section sheets, which you're going to use later, and there's one for plan only, there's one for profile only, and there's one for plan and profile with ANZ. These are the Imperial and Metric Autodesk ones as well, if you don't have the ANZ and don't want to use them. However, I would suggest you do, because we've set them up carefully. Let's use the plan profile sheet, which is here. Now, let me just make a copy of that, see if I can show you something. But I'm going to select that and go and open it. And then it loads up this panel with the sheet sizes. So we'll take an A1 sheet at a 1 to 500 scale. And that thing there, that 1 to 500, is what needs to match your model space scale to get it to lay out the right sizes. So we've got that selected. In that template, we've also got a bunch of other sheet sizes and different scales that you can use at different sheet sizes. So A1 1 to 500, we go OK, and that's what it has set. Now let me just see if I can show you this, what those actually are. Yep, that's good. I've made a copy of it. Switch back to Civil3D. Okay, I might just finish this wizard, and then we'll go and have a look at what those templates are in the background. Then it's going to make these view frames along my alignment. We can rotate them all to north if we want to, but most people tend to rotate the sheets so that they follow the alignment as shown in the picture. So that's what we want to do. And you can also put a buffer on the first one to set it before the beginning of the alignment. But in this case, we don't need to. So we'll go next. It's then going to make a bunch of view frames. That's the default name. That's usually okay. And each view frame gets its own name. And it's going to go on a non-plotting layer for the label and the view frame. So we'll see them, but they won't plot, which is probably what you want. Go next. We've got some match lines. These are used as a line that shows where one sheet starts, where the next one finishes. Let's go through and do that. We'll allow an additional overlap for repositioning of these match lines. So I'll put 10 meters in this case. What it does do is increases the overlap between one sheet and the other. But we'll do that anyway for this case, and I'll show you what that does. And it's quite often a good idea to do that too, because it squashes up. It doesn't make the sheets quite so squashed up. Then we've got a style for the match line. We don't want hatching, and then some labels. There's non-plotting labels here, and you can put plotting ones as well, but I might just go with the non-plotting for now. And go next. And finally, the profile views, or the long sections, you choose what sort of style you want to use for those. In this case, I think I'll just go with the 5 times exaggeration, vertical exaggeration for these long sections. And I'll just stick with the ANZ road bands, but you can obviously choose the bands that go with those long sections as well. That's what this is for. When you're ready, you go create view frames, and that puts them in my drawing, which are the cyan frames there. Now, these frames are the size of that viewport on the A1 sheets that are set to the scale of 1 to 500. And that's how it's worked out, how many it needs. When they come in, you can pick them. You get a number of grips. One is to, with a little diamond in the middle here, slides it along the road, and you can reposition it just sliding along the alignment. Or you also have a green one here that just gives it a rotate if you want to adjust the rotation a little bit. So I might be able to adjust mine just a fraction. And you've also got the square grip, which allows you to move it anywhere you want. I'm going to go with that for the moment, and obviously the other ones look okay, so that should be fine. These are the match lines. It tells you where one sheet starts and the other finishes, and I should be able to move these 10 meters either way. With that 10 meter float, I allowed it. But they're looking pretty good at the moment. What you can do though is, and often a good idea, is to reposition the length of that line so that the label shows up on both sheets. It doesn't have to, but often a good idea. Now this says sheet hash 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 is the next sheet. That gets filled out when we actually produce these long sections on sheets using it actually generates its own sheet set to do that. If you don't use sheet sets, you can choose to just ignore them if you don't like them. Okay, so that's got those all lined up. Now let's have a look at what was in that template in the background. So I'm just going to open that template I copied to my desktop. Let's look at a DWT. Okay, these are the ANZ templates that were set up. So this is the one for the plan and the long section. It has a title block, as you can see down the bottom. Now what you'd probably want to do is replace that title block with your own one. That's fine. You can just open that up. You can save it as your own DWT file with your own name on it and come through and modify each of these sheets. So there's one sheet there. That's at 1 to 200. So if I click within one of those viewports, you'll see that's the 1 to 200 scale down the bottom. It's an A1 sheet size. And similarly with the top one, which is for the plan, 1 to 200. They are also named viewports. So if I have a look at the properties of that, it has a viewport type called plan. And that's how it knows where to put the plan and where to put the long section. So what I recommend, and I recommend to most people, is to come into here, into each sheet, you go and delete out the title block, but keep the 2 viewports because they are named viewports. And you have to name them carefully. So keep those 2 viewports. You can resize them, move them around the page, but don't replace those with your own viewports. Just keep those, copy out the title, or delete out the title block, put your own one in place, and resize the viewports, and then you're ready to go. And similarly for the next sheet, this is the A1 1 to 500, that's the A1 to 1 to 1000, and the obviously different sheet sizes at different scales as well. This is A3 1 to 200. So that's what I would recommend you do, and then each time you use these plan production tools, and do it for the cross sections as well, that will make the sheets in your drawing with your own title blocks ready to go. That's the idea, that's what they're for. Okay, so that's what those are in the background. No, don't save changes. All right, So we've got our view frames laid out. Once you've done that, you've repositioned them, you've got them roughly where you want them. Actually, exactly where you want them is where you want it to be, because once you've created these sheets from these view frames, if you would adjust the positions of these, that wouldn't affect the sheets. You'd have to rerun and recreate the sheets again if you wanted to move the position. So get them where you want them to be, and then you're ready to go. So the next step is back in the Output tab of the ribbon here. We go Create Sheets. So it's the second icon in from the left. You can see by the little flyer, it actually shows you what it's going to do. It's going to make the sheets. The first one, if I hover my cursor over there, it shows you what it does. It makes the view frames. So I've got our view frames done. We can go Create Sheets. Now, you have some choices here. It's going to use that view frame group that I just made, those view frames. So that's good. If you've got, you will have potentially multiple view frame groups, one for each alignment. But that's one we want, and we want to do all of the frames, not just a selection of them. So that's what we want. Now here's the thing. You can choose to put all of the layouts or the new sheets in the current drawing, which is this one here. Now many people do that, and that's fine. However, many people also want to split them out to a different drawing. So we can put all layouts in one new drawing. The reason is that you can have this as a design drawing, and then you can have the other drawings as your plotting drawings. And they will be linked when we do that with XREFs and data shortcuts made automatically to make it work. You can do, the other option here is to make one new drawing for every new sheet. Or you can put 2 sheets in the new drawing, or 3, whichever you like, which can be done as well. There's not so many people doing that, but there is a few. But let's go for all layouts in one new drawing. So we'll have our plotting drawings separate from our design drawing. This is slightly more setup than putting everything into the current drawing, but I'll show you that as this particular method, just to show you the more complex way. Each layout or sheet that it's going to make will have a name. It's just going to call it sheet 123 at the moment. I normally change that to long section 123, or LS 123, so let's just do that. And then there is a north arrow block in here. Now in 2015 it was working okay. 2016 it's changed again, and we're going to need to get them. I've asked Autodesk to have a look at this and get it working again for the next version, but for the moment these north blocks are not working as they should, and there isn't actually one to choose there anyhow. I'll show you that when we get them done, but just know for 2016 there is a bug in there, and I've asked Autodesk to look at it for us. We go next, and it makes, as I said, a sheet set. It has a default name in here. I'm going to just change that to demo. It's going to be the demo sheet set. Or we can add to an existing one if we already use that. The storage location is usually in the same folder where your drawing is saved, so that's fine. And this one down the bottom here, because we've told it to make all these sheets in a new drawing, this is where it's going to save that new drawing, and that is going to be the name of the new drawing. So I might just put the word demo on the front here for the new drawing that it's going to make. All right, we go next. Now we told it previously what profile view style to use, which is grey up the top here, and what van set to use. Now it does have the option here to get other settings from an existing profile view. So we'll get its settings from a profile view you've already drawn in your model space. Now, I have never had a huge amount of luck with that. Some people say it works fine for them, but myself, I always go choose settings and just run through the pertinent pieces of the profile view wizard again, and then I know it's going to come out right. So I'm going to go choose settings, profile view wizard. So we don't want to split the profiles, that's fine, well not in this case anyhow. Profile display options, there's our design profile and our EG. We want to see both of them and what styles they're on. They're on design plotting and surface existing, so that's fine. Go next, the data bands. Here's our ANZ road data bands. And of course that's using the ANZ Country Kit. You may have your own template and you'll have your own data band set. And for us, profile 1 is always going to be design, and profile 2 is always going to be existing. Hopefully your template's set up the same way. That's how it should be working. Makes it easy too. So that's all good. We go next. We don't need hatches. We go next. And there's multiple plot options. It's just going to make several long sections in model space. It wants to know where to put them and how to lay them out, but that's usually fine. So we can go finish. Back in the wizard here, we can choose where we want the plan and the long section to align themselves in the center of the page, the beginning or the end. Let's go align in the center and go next. And this here, because we're putting it out into another drawing, is making a whole bunch of data shortcuts, and or as many as are needed, and an XREF as well. Got a few options of whether we copy some labels across with pipes if we want to. And any additional things you want data shortcuts of, you can tick on here at the same time, but I'm going to go with the defaults, and we go create sheets. It tells us it's going to save the current drawing, so I go OK. And it just wants to know where to make these long sections in model space. So I'm going to come up here off to the right and just click a spot here. And it's going to go out to the right of where I pick. So it'll take a few seconds just to calculate that out. It's creating those XREFs and DREFs, data shortcuts. And here's the sheet set that it has made. As I say, if you don't use sheet sets and don't want to, you can just close this and ignore it. But they are quite useful for doing title block numbering and things like that, and also for actually just going directly to open a particular sheet, and it will open the drawing that that's come from. And I'm going to close that as well. I'll just close it and ignore it for now. It'll come back later on when I do the long cross sections. So this is what it's done. Here's our plan view. Here are our sheet like match lines, and you can see it's filled in the sheet number there, and that's running off the sheet set that it's generated. Down the bottom is our long section. It's got hopefully these are all working correctly. Yep, looks like it. And we've got our profile. Down the bottom here you can see this is our, and you can see there's the name of the drawing that's put it in, my demo view frame group CL1. And each of the long sections has gone into this particular drawing because that's what I asked it to do. Now, good. We have this particular one. This is a very steep site. So that one has a long section that's not fitted into the viewport. Two options. We can just simply on the sheet, as you would normally do, squash up the top viewport and make the bottom one bigger so it will all fit on there. Can do that, but in this case I don't think we actually have room to do that anyhow. But we can actually just simply go into that viewport, pick your long section, and just change the style as you would for any long section. So I can right click now, or up in the ribbon, go to the profile view properties and change its style to 1 times vertical exaggeration instead of 5 because it doesn't fit in my sheet. Oh, and we might need to give it a bit of a nudge as well. We just need to change the height parameters for it as well. So if I pick on that, go into the profile view properties again, look at elevations, and you can see it's got a user specified height. I think if we just put it on automatic, I think that will fix this up. Yep, it does. So that's okay. It was constrained to fit within the viewport, but it doesn't need to be anymore. And so we can just put that on automatic. Then might want to unlock your viewport, give it a little nudge to center it up, and then lock it again. Being careful not to change the scale, 1 to 500. And I think the next one will be fine as well. Because it's only a short one. Yeah, it's quite steep, but it's actually short, so it's actually fitting all right. Now, these are the north arrows. As I said, they are not working in 2016. That north arrow should be pointing off slightly to the right, so it hasn't actually done what it was supposed to do. I think you'll find in 2015 it does work. However, in 2016, all we need to do is delete it, and we can then pick the viewport. Up in the ribbon, you've got a north arrow option here, and you can choose the north arrow. Not sure, I think it was this one we had, arrow 18, or you can load your own custom north arrow, but I'm going to go for that one. Pop it into place. And when you do that, they're actually tiny to begin with. So if you actually select it again, you'll have a grip you can use to make it the size that you want. We'll scale it, and you can see it's now pointed to north. You'll also find that these Autodesk scale bars are not right either. So that's not one. You'll actually find 150. This is actually 1 to 500. So yeah, we've got Autodesk looking at that, as I said. So a couple of things you need to do, but as I say, if you've, it's still going to save you a lot of time rather than doing these things manually. Okay, so if we go in this other drawing, this is our plotting drawing. If we go back to model space, you'll see what it's actually done. Here's our long sections it's made in model space, and those are what are plotting on the sheets. And we've got an XREF in the background here. As you can see, it's an XREF, and we'll hover over it. That is what's being plotted in the plan views. But we also do have a alignment in here, which is a data shortcut alignment from the previous drawing. If we go back to the actual design drawing, you can see none of that stuff is in here. It's still as it was, and we can continue working on it, and those links will maintain through to our plotting drawings. So back in the plotting drawing again, we want to look at cross sections now. So that is quite simply what you need to do for your long sections. Sometimes I should say in these long sections you may find that these band titles are a little bit off the sheet, so you may need to just come in and give a little adjustment by making that viewport active, unlock it a bit, and just move it horizontally left or right. As I've aligned these on the center, they're not doing too bad a job, so that's working okay. And always remember to lock it again, of course. All right, back in model space. We want to make some cross sections now. I'm going to make these cross sections in my plotting drawing, not my design drawing. When you make cross sections, you used to, but you don't any longer, get the option to put them in a separate drawing. Like that option we had when we made our long sections, you don't get that for the cross sections. So if you want to make your cross sections in a separate drawing, you do what I've just done. You make your long sections in a separate drawing, and then you make your cross sections in that separate drawing. So this is my plotting drawing, and we will find that all our cross sections will come out in this drawing. We can do that just using the XREF that's in here and the data shortcutted alignment. That's what they're here for. So we go to the Home tab in the ribbon. As we make cross sections anywhere, we need to make some sample lines first. So click on sample lines. Now I should say, in a section of road this long, it may not, with just 3 sheets, it may not take you much time to do that manually. And and that's fine. You don't have to use the plan production tools. There's no reason why you have to. But if you've got many kilometres of road, that's actually going to save you some time. So, 3 of them, yeah, you'd probably be able to do about the same sort of speed to do them manually. But the cross sections, it's actually quite useful. So let's have a look at the cross sections. So I've make some sample lines, select an alignment, or just hit enter to select from a list. There's going to be my CL1 alignment, which is my data shortcutted alignment, which it made automatically for us. It's going to make a sample line group called that, which should be fine. What I might do is just put an XS on the front for cross section, because you'll have a different sample line group if you're doing volumes along your corridor. So I normally put cross sections, XS, on the beginning of the sample line group, so I know which one's which. And the things we want to sample now, if you're using the Australia-New Zealand Country Kit, the minimum things that you need to see in your cross sections to make sure all the bands and everything works properly is the EG surface, the corridor itself, which is the one with the square icon on the left here. That's the actual corridor. Dean Road in this case is the name of the corridor. And the top surface of that corridor. Now I also have a datum surface in here as well in this drawing, but I don't need to have that in my cross section. So the minimum that you do need is the EG, the corridor, and the top surface for the corridor. That's because the bands actually run off the data from the top surface in the corridor. We're ready to go, so we click OK, and we get this little runner that says where do you want to make your sample lines or cross sections. We don't want to pick manually, so we come up to the toolbar up here, and from the drop down we go by range of stations. It goes from the start station to the end station, which is good. The left swath width we can pick on there, and that's how far to the left it goes. We can digitize it on screen using the screen button, so I'm going to pick on that. And I'm going to find roughly the furthest distance, the widest bit on the left, which is about in here. And I won't quite go that far, so let's go to about here somewhere. So pick on the center line and pick on the point that I want to go out to. In that case, that's actually 15 meters, which is, let's make it 16. You can draw an alignment out to the side here, or possibly export it from the corridor and offset it, and that would give you an automatically changing or varying left and right swath width, so that's something you can do as well. But in this case, I'll just do it manually, so the width on the right will be, what's the widest bit of my corridor, is probably in here, and I go from there to there. And I won't go fully to the widest part, because obviously all the cross sections would be much wider than they need to be. That's about 19, so I'm going to make it let's call it 20 meters on the right hand side. How often do we want them to happen? We're going to, along the tangents, let's have it every 20 meters, I guess should be okay. Yeah, let's do 20. And along the curves, every 5 meters would be quite a lot. Let's do 10. And I don't know if we have spirals, but let's make that 10 as well. Range start and range end. Horizontal geometry points, we can put in some additional sample lines there. We don't have super elevation in this particular case, so I won't worry about the critical stations there. And go OK. When we do that, I'll put a bunch of yellow lines on my drawing. That's where each cross section is going to be, so I'm pretty happy with that. I can hit escape to finish the command. Having done that, it puts some numbers on the end of each one. Any that aren't quite wide enough, I can grip edit, get the triangular grip and just pull that outwards. So there's a few here I might want to do that with. And obviously the left-hand side as well. So these are the ones I stopped not quite wide enough on the when I did the left and right swath width, but you can just adjust those, any ones that are much wider than anything else. And any that are too wide, like one like this, I can definitely make that narrower. as I say, if you use that option for an alignment drawn off to the side, you can vary them without having to do it manually like this if you want. So I'll do just one short one there just to show that it works. And you've also got a diamond grip in the middle to shift it up to somewhere else in the corridor if you want somewhere else to be displayed rather than where it's chosen for a particular reason. And there's a couple down here that aren't quite wide enough as well, so I'll bring those out as extra wide ones. And where are we? There. And the rest look okay. So yeah, that should cover me. And I'm pretty sure looking up the rest of the corridor, that one might be a little bit. The rest aren't adjusting. Okay, so the sample line's done. Those are on a layer called C sample lines. So, and the labels are too. So when you don't want to see those anymore, you can turn them off or just freeze them off in a viewport so they don't plot. Or set that layer as no plot if you want. But those are our sample lines. So let's create our multiple views. So the command is under here under section views, create multiple, in this case, section views. We want them to be laid out on sheets again, like the long sections were. And again, the way you need to do it is to, before you start the wizard, come down here to the model space scale and set it to the scale that you want to plot your long sections at. In this case, sorry, your cross sections at. In this case, the cross sections are, they're not hugely wide, so probably a 1 to 200 scale would be reasonable on an A1 sheet. And so let's give that a try, 1 to 200. I think that, I'm pretty sure that worked when I tried it at that scale. So let's find out. So now we're ready to go. Create multiple views. And remember, this is not in my design drawing in this particular case, although you could do it in your design drawing. If you're going to do that, though, I would recommend that you plot your cross sections at the end of the design process, just before you're ready to print out, because it will slow down the regen time of your drawing quite significantly when you make these cross sections. And you'll see that when I do it. The reason is that they're always all fully dynamic and you can't stop them updating. There's no button that says don't update my cross sections. And for that reason, when it does a regen, it has to reproduce all of them one after the other, and there are a few. So that is why either do them in a separate drawing like this, or you can do them in your design drawing, but do it at the end of the design process, so it's not slowing you down while you're waiting for things to regen while you're doing your design. So let's go create multiple views. That's our alignment. That's our sample line group with XS on the beginning, so I know my cross sections. Each section view, it's going to have a name, but that's fine. We've got how much vertical exaggeration or what style do we want to use. So I can do 1 times vertical exaggeration and go next. Here's the section placement area, and this is the same as the long sections. You pick a template in the background. So you click an ellipsis button off to the right here, and again, you probably haven't got these ANZ ones you're looking at the first time you come through, so click on the ellipsis button again, select the plan production folder, and we just choose another one of those ANZ templates in the background. And again, that's just got a title block in there that you can make a copy of that, rename it, and replace your own title blocks in there. But this is one for the cross sections. So we need the section sheet template and go OK. And we're going to choose A1 at 1 to 200 scale. So it matches what I set in the model space there. And that will get the sheets the right size when it lays them out. That being done, we go OK. If you don't want to use those sheet layouts, you click this draft button and it just puts them all in one big group. But most of the time you'll be wanting to use this production, I would say. We don't need to change the group plot styles, so we go next. The offset range, we don't want to change the width, so we go next. Elevation, we don't want to change the height, so we go next. Now, here we need to set up the styles we want to use for our cross sections. So the EG surface, existing surface, wants to be in a surface existing style. This one with the square icon, if you recall. Now, also it says these are, you can see it's a little symbol here that shows them up as data shortcuts. They're not actually, they're actually coming from the XREF, which is pretty cool. It's a 3D XREF that we're getting here. It's not just done line working as AutoCAD XREFs are. It's bringing it through, and it seems to recognize it as a data shortcut even though it's not. So it's actually quite cool what it's doing. But remember, this one with the square icon is your actual corridor. So we've got some different styles for that. For if you want the hatching, there's some cross-section plotting styles with hatching and without hatching and things like that. I'm just going to leave it standard for this case, which is just blue lines. That's all we generally need to show in most cross sections anyhow. Just a bit of line work for the corridor itself. And then the top surface, I want to put that on a design, ANZ surface design style, which is a red line in this case. What we also want is to set some ordinate lines. Now I'll show you what these are when we get them produced. Quite often people forget them. So we need some labels on our top surface for the corridor. We want to set that to ordinate lines, no weeding. No weeding means it doesn't remove any. They're all going to show. And you want to do that most of the time when you've got a corridor. And go OK. Now, if you forget that, I'll show you where you can put it in later on. But it's good to get it right the first time. We go next. We've got some data bands again. We want to get those to match the ordinate lines. The ordinate lines run down from the cross section and they want to match up with the bands at the bottom. So if we're using no weeding for the ordinate lines, we want no weeding for the data bands as well. Then again, just like the long sections, the first column here, surface 1 is always design, surface 2 is always existing. If using the ANZ Country Kit. And hopefully your template will be set up the same way because that makes it easy. When we're ready, we go create section views, and I'm going to choose a spot off to the right down here and click there. And this will take a moment to generate as well. There we go. So, what's it done? It's gone through, and the green square you can see here is the sheet size, the A1 sheet, and the yellow line is the viewport size to fit these cross sections in. And it's looked at the cross sections, and in this particular one we must have some wide ones there, so it's decided, no, well, it can't fit 3 on a sheet here, so I'm going to go across and put the rest on another sheet. These ones must be too high, so it's gone and allowed remove the row at the top and put them into the next sheet, etc. And finally the last sheet here showing up. So these are all dynamic all the time. So as I said, it does slow down the regen time. If I do a regen, REA, regen all, that's it going, 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 still going, still going, still going. Now it's back. Okay, so it does take, you know, what was that, 4 or 5 seconds in a small road like this. So in larger roads, it will take, you know, 10, maybe 15, 20 seconds sometimes. So yeah, that's one reason for putting these in a separate drawing or doing them right at the very end. As I said, they're all dynamic, so let's look at the chainage 20. If I go and make chainage 20 huge, so let me just pick that, oops, just doing an auto save in the background here, just give it a second. Actually, I probably should do a manual save as well, but I've got the auto save. Let's stretch that out wide. And on the other side, we'll stretch it out wide as well to make modify a particular cross section. and make it too big to fit on the sheets as they're currently laid out. Now I'm just going to do a save there. It hasn't been saved since we made our long sections. Okay. All right, so here is our cross section that's now miles too big for the sheet. We can pick any cross section we want basically of this group, and up in the ribbon we've got this big button that says Update Group Layout. Click on that. It will rejig all of these cross sections. So you can see we don't have 3x3 on that sheet anymore. It's made 3x2 to fit that one in there, and it will have changed the last sheet. It's now got an extra cross section or 2 in there because I had to nudge them all along. So that works really well. Let's make these sheets. So back in the Output tab of the ribbon, that's in our layout, we need to make the sheets, and it's this third button in the Output tab, which is Create Section Sheets. So we click on that one, and it should be going to directly make us our sheets. Here we go. Here's a little wizard. There's our alignment, that's our sample line group, and there's our section view group. Now you won't be able to go any further coming into here unless you've already made your cross sections. So it requires those to be made first. That's a little mistake that, well, I have made many times in the past. I've forgotten to make my cross sections first. I come into here and this is my half grade out and I can't go any further. The layout name will be XS for cross section, or whatever you want to call them. You can add these to an existing sheet set. So I've already made that sheet set called Demo 1. I can add these sheets to the new sheet set, so we don't make a duplicate. As I said before, there's no longer any option here to make these cross sections in a new drawing. So that's why I've made them in this plotting drawing, to keep them separate from my design drawing if you want to. We're then going to create sheets. So I'm just going to save the drawings, that's fine. There's our sheet set coming back up again. And there's our cross sections gone in, and there they are in the layout tabs down the bottom. By the way, for these layouts in 2016, if you don't know it, you can get them to appear above the other toolbar down the bottom here. If you right click on them and go, you can dock inline with the status bar, and then they disappear and you've got to use this drop down to find the other ones. Or you can right click on them and go, right click on them and go dock above the status bar, and that'll give you more space, the amount of space you used to have in AutoCAD to do it. So let's go and have a look at one of these sheets. I'll close that sheet set manager for the moment. And as you recall, it needs to region when you do it. And you can see it's laid those out on the sheet for us. And we can make that viewport active, unlock it, give it a nudge if we want to center them up if we need to, but that's not too bad. We should find our bands are all working, which is good. These lines coming down here, these vertical ones, those are the ordinate lines, which are the labels that are on the top surface of the corridor. Those are the ones that sometimes get left out, so I'll show you back in model space where to put those in if you forget them. Just let your screens catch up. Cool. All right, so pick any one of these cross sections. By picking on the bands is usually the best way to do it. And up in the ribbon, you've got View Group Properties. That's the properties of all of the group, the whole group of all those cross sections. And this is where you can change those things. So you can change the band sets and change the data on the band sets of this one here, Or we can go to the Sections tab and change the label set. So for instance, this is the top surface I want to check the labels on. We go Edit, and if I haven't chosen them already or got the wrong ones, you can go ANZ Ordinate Lines, no weeding, and set those in there if you ever need to do that manually. And you can change the style that any of these components are using in the cross sections too. Go OK on that. So the ordinate lines, if I pick them just to show you what they are and where they are these things here. If I pick them, you'll see that only those highlight. Those are actually labels that are on the top surface of the corridor, which is why you need that top surface of the corridor in there. The reason why we have to have that workaround is because the Americans don't use bands down the bottom, and if we want to use bands and have all the staggering and stuff working, that's the workaround to get the ordinate lines. One more thing. Now I've asked them also Autodesk to change this for the ANZ template in the next version. I don't think they'll do it with an update. But you can see we've got two change labels down the bottom here. There was only one in the 2015 version, but let's move one of these sample lines like change 40. If I move that up the road, give it a second because it does take a second to catch up. There it goes. Let's see what's happened to change 40. Here it is. So you can see with the label down the bottom here, that one's updated, but this one hasn't. Now in 2015 version, I think you'll find you've got this label here that doesn't update. So in 2016, I asked them to change it and get it looking like that, which they did, but they left the old one in there as well. So let me just show you how to remove that if you're using 2016. So that's actually a title of a band that is showing up there. So if I pick any one of my cross sections will do, and if we go into the section view properties, and in the bands, there's the title CH. Now we want that to actually stay there because that's a placeholder for the title label. It just makes a little bit of space for it. We just want to go into there, click on this little button here on the right, slightly blue button. We want to edit title change, click the edit button, and we don't want this title block text in there anymore. Go OK and OK. And might as well, let's just hit apply. And you'll see it's turned that off in the background. But we also want to take this text and move it up. So the way we do that is to go to the, actually, what is it? Elevation sections. That'll be in the style. Yep, so we go to the style of the cross section. Go and edit that one, and it is the title annotation, so it has the whole word change there, and then the section view station. That's what's showing up in the background. Here's the offset, so we'll take about 15 millimeters off that one, which is the size of a band, so that's minus what, 65? If my calculation is correct, I think that'll be a 65. Go OK and OK. There we go. So not too hard to do. As you can see, they will adjust at the same time, but hopefully we'll have that fixed up in the next version of the Country Kit, and you won't need to bother about it anymore, and that'll just update. One other thing for those who are observant amongst you, we've got twice as many labels in here now as we have in the other cross sections. The reason is that we've got a whole bunch of extra ordinate lines running down here and extra labels coming off those ordinate lines. These ordinate lines go in anywhere that there is a crossing triangle in that surface, that top surface. And because I have moved, go back to the plan view here, that sample line off one of these blue frequency lines in the corridor, we end up with crossing extra triangulations in between there. When you actually make a surface, it triangulates between these blue lines. So what we actually need is an extra blue line at that change value of 45.276. Let me just write that one down. 45.276. If you've done these cross sections in your design drawing, it's not a problem. You can just pick your corridor. But this is not a corridor. This is an, pick it there, XREF. The whole thing highlights. Just let your screens catch up there. I think there they go. So where we actually need to put in that extra frequency line is back in our design drawing. So I go back to my design drawing, pick the corridor. Up in the ribbon, we have a button that says Edit Frequency. It's going to be in that region. And I'm going to hit the plus down the bottom here to add an additional one. Well, sorry, just let your screens catch up. There we go, plus down the bottom there, which gives me a little runner, and I can type in the station that I want, which will be 45.276. And go enter. And escape once I've done it. And there's 45.276 is the extra frequency line. Go OK. And we should see an extra frequency line occur in there. And there it goes. Save this. This design drawing, and then switch back to my drafting drawing, my plotting drawing, and you can see the XREFs and data shortcut needs reloading. So I'll reload that one, reload the XREF. And when that's finished, I will synchronize the data shortcut as well. Just with those balloon notifications down the bottom right there. Now that does happen in any time that you move a sample line that is not going to line up with one of the blue frequency lines on your corridor. You will need to do that to get the number of labels back right in your cross section. Now it looks like we're just a fraction of a millimeter off there, so let me just, because I've still got the same number of labels there occurring. So let me go and pick that actual sample line. And change its position to, well actually, let's move it out of the way. I could just go and edit it and change it numerically, I guess, but let's see if we can do it graphically. And then move it back and snap it to there using the O-snaps. Of course, if you made these frequency lines everywhere you want, there we go, it's fixed it up. If you made these frequency lines everywhere you want a cross section before you actually come into here, you don't need to do it after the fact. But that's how you fix those up if you ever see those. Okay, so I think basically that's the end of where I wanted to get up to today, and it's pretty much bang on for time. Let me just have a look to see if there's any questions that have been asked here that need answering. It looks like they've all been answered. No, here we go. "20 sheets, but puts them in the wrong order." Okay, I'd have to have a look at the drawing. Somebody's saying that when they plot, they get the sheets being made, but they're in the wrong order. There might be something to do with the sheet set that's being generated, but we'd have to have a look at that. Yeah, if we can take that offline, and if you can drop us an email to support at a2ktechnologies.co.nz or com.au, they'll get through to us. Now, some of that stuff, I'm not expecting everybody to remember this by watching the webcast, so this webcast has been recorded, and probably certainly by beginning of next week, we'll have it up on the website for you guys to download and or just view if you prefer, and go back through this whenever you need it. So that's pretty much where I wanted to get to for this session. As you can see, we now match the little demo page there. So thank you for your attendance today. Have a good afternoon. I think it's probably afternoon by now over in Australia there. And we'll see you on the next one of these little webcasts. Thank you very much.